Now let's go through an example of using the LLM to do something. And I'm going to have a very simple prompt. I'm going to show you how I use an LLM to accomplish a goal or create content. So first of all, let's open up a LLM. I'm going to use Bard for this example because I need up-to-date information. And I'm going to also open a online document based on Google Docs to sort of keep my results and also keep a log of what I'm doing. So let's say I had a Italy trip that was coming up and I need to put together an itinerary for 5 to 10 days. So let's name this Italy trip and let's start querying Bard. So what I'm going to ask is, can you put together a Italy trip for 5 to 10 days? So this is sort of an exploratory query, and this gives a high level of understanding for what I'm looking for. And first, I'm going to get a bunch of results. So here, the LLM assumed that I'm going to be staying 10 days and provided a list of things to do. So Rome, Colosseum, Vatican City, Pompeii. These are all great choices. Amalfi Coast is gorgeous. Florence, and then relax on the beach of Mediterranean Sea. However, I think that this is a lot of traveling. So I'm going to narrow down the LLM. However, this is a good first draft, and this gives me an idea of what I should be looking for in Rome. So let me clarify this. Can you actually put together a itinerary for a Italy trip that lasts, let's say I'm only going for 7 days, and minimize traveling and stay around the Amalfi Coast. So what I realized while this is I really like being by the water and I don't really want to spend too much time away from it. So I'm writing a prompt that clarifies my Italy trip request and specifies it to 7 days and minimizes traveling. So I'm staying around one area and stay around the Amalfi Coast. So let's go ahead and put that. And now in a few seconds, it should generate a response. So arrive in Naples and transport to Sorrento. Sorrento, beautiful town with stunning views of the Bay of Naples. This is good. It's all by the water. So, Capri, luxurious island with stunning scenery, Amalfi Coast, Path of Gods. All this is by the water. It looks like I'm not traveling too much. So, and it's 7 days. It's perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and export this into docs. So here, I don't really need, the second doc. I'm just going to use this one. And let's just rename this Italy Trip 2023. So now I need to start filling out the information here. So I'm going to ask Bard to provide an itinerary for Naples and how to travel to Sorrento. So now I'm starting to flesh out my itinerary, and I'm asking more questions about the Naples part of the trip. So now by narrowing it down, it actually provides me with a morning and afternoon itinerary. However, it did not provide travel, so I'm going to have to query that again. But I can use this, so I'm going to go ahead and paste it into my docs. Go ahead and paste this. And then paste this. And then it also provides a morning and night itinerary for each part of the trip. So I'm going to go ahead and copy these as well. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to copy each one. However, I'm going to go ahead and export this so I can use it later. And then I'm going to go ahead and ask, how do you get from Naples to Sorrento? And now I'm just clarifying an individual part of the trip. So now it gives me multiple options, and we can use options for transportation to Sorrento. And we can go ahead and copy and paste each one of these. And then from here, we can add a bullet point. And now we're starting to get a good travel itinerary. So let's go ahead and continue working. So day 3, that does not provide any information. So we need to figure out, what can we do in Capri? So let's ask, what can we do in Capri for a day? And now you can kind of see the pattern of getting a rough understanding of what's going on and then asking individual things. That way, we use the LLM to our advantage because LLM can't provide a crazy long response. However, it can provide smaller bite-sized pieces as you start clarifying more and more into the problem space. So at every point, we want to, the thinking about this is we want to look high level and then clarify. So what we're doing here is called the double diamond process of design. So we think broadly, then we clarify, then we think broadly again, and then we clarify again. So you can see here, I asked broadly by asking the overall itinerary, and then I clarified in each section, and then I asked broadly again, like for options of travel and so on and so forth. That way, we start fleshing out a very well-rounded itinerary. So let's go ahead and assume that we did it for the rest. Now we have a fleshed out itinerary of things you can do in Italy, and we did this extremely quickly. This only took around like 4 or 5 minutes, just querying the LLM. Now from here, what we need to do is to proofread this and make sure everything makes sense, and then go ahead and just order our plane tickets and travel, because it looks like we have a Italy trip planned, and then we can go ahead and then just email this to whoever we want to share with. So this is the first example of how to plan a travel trip using a LLM like Bard or ChatGPT. In this example, let's go ahead and try chatting with Cloud about a PDF and use Cloud to provide a high-level view of what is going on in a PDF and get information that we might need to understand it. So I have a sample lease agreement, which might be a very common use case for Cloud, and I'll go over a more complicated use case later. So I'm going to first send the lease agreement and then ask Cloud to summarize this lease agreement. And now once we send it, Cloud is opening the PDF, it's parsing it and is understanding it, which might take some time. The longer the PDF, the longer the processing time. So now it's providing a high level understanding of what is going on in the PDF. So now it gives us the pieces of information that we need, like the start date, the end date, the monthly rent, late fee, security deposit, and it will return in 45 days. No pets allowed, smoking is prohibited. And then let's ask it some more in-depth questions that we might have. Like, let's say we have 3 pets. Now we can ask Cloud, I have 3 cats. Can I bring them with the lease? Now we're asking a very specific question, and Cloud should be able to sort of expand on the existing lease agreement and provide more information on our query. So now it's saying that the lease agreement says no pets, therefore we can't do that. However, it's getting suggestions on what we can do to get this, to get our 3 cats in. I really like my 3 cats, so I'm not sure if this lease agreement is going to work. So let's go ahead and ask, what are the terms of breaking this lease? Now you can see that Cloud is going to go back into the PDF and get more information on this. So now it provides information about how to break a lease, and it provides Section O, which is a very specific thing. There are no general provisions, so this is another general thing that is in the lease. So it is going through the PDF and understanding it to provide responses that are actually tailored for this PDF. And this saves a lot of time because this saves us time reading the PDF, understanding the PDF, and maybe even saves time for us needing to go out and get a lawyer or somebody that is trained in legal documents. So let's ask one more question and say, how many days late can I pay my rent, and what is the penalty? So now it's going back into the PDF and understanding the question, pulling up resources from the PDF, and then also referencing it and letting us know what it says. So now it's telling us that rent is due on the 1st of each month, and the landlord can assess a late fee if it's not paid by the 5th, and the late fee is 5% of the monthly rent, which is pretty high. Now let's, out of curiosity, let's say my rent is $2,000 a month. What is the late fee on that? So now I'm asking Cloud again and just asking more and more specific questions. So this is just a very conversational way of chatting with the chatbot and using it to save time in getting information from a structured format like a PDF or an Excel sheet or something else. A core component of sales are sales emails, especially with cold calling or cold emailing. We need to be able to create a template that we can use to prospect from your clients. So if you're not familiar with this, if you're in sales, you already know that sales copy for emails is a very typical thing that is in your day-to-day routine. You have to create this email in order to prospect and get new leads for new business. And this is the first step of the customer acquisition pipeline. Typically, you can make a template and copy and paste it from multiple prospects, but like, why not create a new template for every prospect using ChatGPT? So let's say we're targeting one person. Let's say we're targeting Tim Cook, and we want to email him something hoping to win him business. So Tim Cook owns a computer company. He is the CEO of a computer company, and we want to form a new business line where we sell his MacBooks in our store. So let's write him a 500-word email. We can use ChatGPT for this, and we can say, write a 300-word email to Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple Computers, and ask him to sell his MacBooks in our store. Mention that we have great foot traffic and are able to give his computers a section of the store as a display. So, crucial parts of this prompt, we are providing everything of value for Tim Cook that might interest him. And then we are specifying the background of who Tim Cook is, which is CEO of Apple Computers. And we have the ask in the prompt as well, which is ask him to sell MacBooks in our store. We mentioned that we have great foot traffic and are able to give his computers a section of the store as a display. This will give our letter the value proposition that Tim Cook is looking for. So it writes us an email, subject, request to sell MacBooks in our store. Dear Tim Cook, hope this email finds you well. My name is Redacted, and I'm willing to write on behalf of Redacted, a leading retailer of consumer products. So this is a very good email that we can probably send to Tim Cook. And we can, if we don't like this, we can regenerate it and write another one. So you can keep regenerating these until you find one that you like. And this will save you time in your prospecting process because you can generate a unique email very quickly for every prospect with the backgrounds that you specify. And you can create, and these emails are then personalized for the recipient. So now that we have signed up for those websites, let's say we got a job and they want us to write a app that gets information from the Reddit API. and they want it to be written in Swift or on the, or a website. So now in ChatGPT, we need to, create a plan for how to do this. So typically you can put together, a website very easily. You need to select a front end framework and, build a view that gets stuff from the back end. So you need a front end and a back end for this. So we can ask ChatGPT, what are good, frameworks for building a front end website that gets, top votes from Reddit? And it'll start suggesting some front-end frameworks, which are a good jumping off ground, for building this. I've personally used React and Angular, so I know that they're pretty good technologies. I haven't used Vue, so I feel like I'm more familiar with working with React and Angular. So let's build a React app. So now we ask ChatGPT, how do you write a basic bootstrap code for a React app that scrapes, that gets data from Reddit and posts the top 10 URLs? So now we can ask it how to like create the app, and it will start writing some code for us, which we can then take and copy into a code editor like Visual Studio, Visual Code. And as we get, build out more components, we can start inserting the code into the program and start building out the app that we were asked to do. So you can see this is already like a lot faster than writing it ourselves. I personally know that this is actually the right way of doing this. If you add .json to anything on Reddit, you'll get the JSON output. So the API calls look good. And everything they're making makes sense. So let's go ahead and copy this into a file and then save it somewhere and create a folder. So we can call this index.js. And then we can ask it, because we also need a package file. A code above. And through this, we're like basically writing out all the code. This is not perfect. There might be some fiddling you still have to do, but this is enough to give you a starting point where you can take this code, edit it, and then get the actual website that you want generated. So this is generating the package.json file. And once it's done, we can copy that over, install it as a package.json, and then continue working on our development. So a lot of the strategy for creating this is knowing the overall structure of how to approach building a software app. So it's leveraging your knowledge that you already know, and then it will write the code for you. So you don't have to, you just have to work on the high level strategy and the high level vision of building the app. And the AI will do the work of actually writing the code for you. Website copy is a very typical thing that will need to be written for a website in order for you to sell product. So let's go to a popular website to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So this is copy. This is copy. This is copy. This is copy. Everything that is used on the website in order to market a product to sell to a consumer is considered marketing copy. So this copy typically is written by a copywriter, but we can use ChatGPT to write us copy to use on our website. And we could also offer copy written for somebody else through a marketplace like Fiverr or Upwork. And we can use ChatGPT to make our work a little bit easier by doing most of the heavy lifting through that. So we can go into ChatGPT and type in, write me a headline about a cell phone that is newly released, and talk about the camera in one sentence. So if you don't already know, this is writing a headline about, let's say, the iPhone that we can use on our website. This is a one sentence line that we can use on our website to market the camera. Let's say we don't like this one, we can refresh it and it can write us something differently. So we can keep looping through it until we find something that we like. This will let us create most of the copy on the website, which fills in those blanks of the lorem ipsum when you use a website generator, and is an essential part of any marketing website. So let's go, for example, to another one. Let's say we're marketing TVs. We can go to Samsung.com and look at some of the copy that they have there, just to give an idea of where this copy might live. So this is a long piece of copy. Let's ask ChatGPT to generate it as well. So if we ask it to write a website copy about Samsung phone with a 200 megapixel camera in 2 sentences, which is the copy that is on the Samsung website. So you can see here that they generated a tagline that we can use for our website. And showing these 2 examples, you can really use any sort of product and use ChatGPT to generate the website copy for you. This will improve your speed of building a website, and you can also offer this as a service to other people. Now we're going to show the multimodal capabilities of LLMs and perform an image search on Bard looking for a brown leather jacket. So I'm going to first open Bard, and if you aren't on this page, you can go to bard.google.com to get to here. And if you land on the right page, you should be presented with a screen that looks like this. So I'm going to write my prompt with a little priming first, and I'm going to say, you are a helpful shopping assistant that looks for items and is very knowledgeable. So first I send my priming message, and then I follow up with, can you show me pictures of a brown leather jacket that looks a little vintage? And now when I send this, Bard will respond with images as well as different options for brown leather jackets. And some of these look good, but it's not exactly what I want. So let's ask Bard for a few more options. And I'm going to send my prompt. Can you send a few more options? And now Bard should respond with a few more because it already has context from my previous conversation, so it knows what I'm talking about. Now let's clarify. This leather jacket is for a man. And now we're going to clarify even more about the leather jackets that we're looking for. None of these quite work. So let's send them a sample of what we're looking for. We can upload a picture onto Bard and then query with it. And I have a picture picked out of a brown leather jacket that I want to look for. So let's just go to my downloads folder and find it and then send, can you find the brown leather jacket that looks like this? Now I query with the image, and this is the multimodal capabilities where Bard interfaces with Google Lens, and it responds with leather jackets that look similar to this. And these look good, except for the second one. So let's ask him, can you remove the second jacket since it is for women? So now it removes the second leather jacket, and let's ask it to write a short pros and cons list in the form of a blog article. And that way, if we have a fashion blog, we can actually use this response and then turn it into a blog post. Pros and cons list that is in the form of a blog post. And now, knowing the context, it'll take what we previously talked about and create a pros and cons list. And then we can go ahead and share this and export it to our Google Doc, or we can write it in an email to send to somebody who might be buying these leather jackets. So that's an example of how to use multimodal or image search on Bard. Now we're going to show the coding capabilities of ChatGPT by using it to help us complete this file. And this file is a file in a larger web app that is a financial calculator. So we're going to finish this code, which is created in JavaScript initially using ChatGPT. And if you aren't on this page, you can go to chat.openai.com to reach this page. Once you're logged in, you should be greeted with a screen that looks like this. So let's go ahead and get started by priming the AI and telling it that it's a helpful developer assistant that's proficient in JavaScript. You are a helpful developer assistant that is proficient in JavaScript. This priming sets expectations for the AI and sort of tells it what it's going to do. Now we're going to feed the code into the chat in order to provide the context for which the chatbot will build off of. So I'm going to ask it, can you read over and explain this code? And I'm going to add 2 new lines to separate the rest of the prompt with the code. Now it's going to take the code and explain it line by line. It is reading the code into the context now, and now it's going to have an understanding of what is going on so it can start performing higher level reasoning. And in here, we have most of the code already written, so we're going to ask it to finish the calculate biweekly and the calculate tax functions. So now with the code fed in, we're going to ask it, can you complete the calculate biweekly function? It calculates a biweekly paycheck from a yearly salary. So now we ask it if it can do that simple task. And now it creates this function and writes fills in the code. It also does some exception handling. However, it does pass in the biweekly pay periods, which is set to a default of 26. That's fine. We can use it for now. If we wanted to clarify, we can say that let's hard code the biweekly pay periods variable and always set it to 26. So now we take the initial code and then we can clarify it and shorten it. So it still keeps the exception handling. I think that's fine. That's actually a good touch because we don't want salary to be a string because this operation will fail. So now let's calculate the calculate tax function. So let's ask it, can you complete the calculate tax function now? And it calculates the tax amount of a yearly salary by the tax rates. And now it's going to complete that second function, and it checks first if the salary is a number and that the tax rate is a number, and then it takes the salary times the tax rate and converts it from a percentage to a decimal. So that is correct. Let's go ahead and take this and then add it to our file. And then now let's ask, can you comment the calculate biweekly function? So at the end, we always like to add comments in order to let the next person know what we worked on before so they have some context. So this looks like a good way to comment it. It also includes a doc string, which is great. Let's go ahead and paste this in. And now let's do the same thing with the calculate tax function. And let's go ahead and ask, can you comment the calculate tax function? And now the same way as it did with the calculate biweekly, it will comment the calculate tax function, which we can use to copy into our file. So let's go ahead and take this and paste it in. Things are looking really good. And now let's just sort of ask it to comment the class. You comment that entire class. And let's go ahead and copy a new version of the code, as the code did change a lot and we don't want to confuse the AI too much. So now it's creating the doc string for the component, as well as some of the comments, some of the imports. So let's go ahead and just copy in these comments. And now we have a perfectly commented class that saves us a lot of time in writing the code as well as writing the comments. Now we can pass this on to the next developer and move on to the next class. This is the last section of our generative AI course, and this covers the do's and don'ts of using generative AI. Generative AI is good at a lot of things. It's very good at generating original content for a blog or website, generating inspiration for art pieces. It's good for quick prototyping and mockups, and performing grunt work like converting files, upscaling images, or colorization. These are all pro points of using generative AI, and it can be a force multiplier for a lot of people. But it can always be dangerous. Don't use generative AI to cheat on exams and quizzes. This might land you in deep trouble if a teacher catches you. There are tools for detecting generated essays and articles that were generated using ChatGPT and other LLM models. Don't take everything an AI says at face value. Do your own research. A lot of these AI models are incentivized to just provide an answer. It could be the wrong answer, and it could be blatantly racist, bigoted, or very politically incorrect. A lot of times the AI is trained on information on the internet, so it's only as good as the information it gets, and the information it gets is created by people. Make sure you think about every answer you get from an AI. It's not always necessarily right. It just believes that it's a suitable answer for the user. And don't use AI to plagiarize other artists. AI is trained on all of the information that's provided, and sometimes it might create something that's very similar to previous work done by an artist. Things to be careful of. Always check the terms and conditions of content generated by the AI to make sure that you own the rights. This is especially true for the free tools. You never really know if it's being generated and the rights are owned by the company that owns the AI, or the rights are given to you. Always read the fine print and make sure you know who the rights of the AI content is going to. And make sure it doesn't infringe on the copyrights of other artists. This might land you in deep trouble if an artist complains and sues or claims copyright infringement on you. And the last slide, AI is a great tool when used correctly. With great power comes great responsibility. In order to keep generative AI open for the rest of us, please don't abuse it. Thanks for sticking with me, and I'm your instructor for the Generative AI course. Have fun out there, and hope you create something magical.